Hi, my name is Debbie, and I am obsessed with all things to do with ultrasound. I'm an empty nester who has spent the last 28 years scanning in all different kinds of situations: clinics, hospitals, point of service, emergency departments, private offices, echovascular, general, high risk OB, and want to dive down deep into all things to do with technology, techniques, and transformation. It's time we take ultrasound to the next level. Think of this like your little power boost on your commute to all things ultrasound, along your way to the thing that we call work. So pull up a seat, make sure you're comfy, and be ready to be challenged and encouraged as we learn it's all about the frequency. Our next guest has over 28 years of experience as a registered ultrasound technologist. It's me. I have worked in hospitals, doctors' offices, emergency departments, clinics, and on-call settings. My experience extends beyond performing ultrasounds. Let me just start all over. 3, 2, 1. With over 28 years of experience as a registered ultrasound technologist, I have worked in hospitals, doctors' offices, emergency departments, clinics, and on-call settings. My expertise extends beyond performing ultrasounds. I have trained ultrasound technologists, residents, and physicians, helping to shape the future of the profession. My journey in ultrasound began at the age of 23, driven by my love for technology and the opportunity to collaborate with physicians to develop patient care plans. My passion for women's health once had me considering midwifery, but I am grateful I chose ultrasound. It has been the perfect blend of science, problem solving, and patient care. Ultrasound has been my constant through life's challenges, including single parenting, economic struggles, and global pandemics. This career has not only provided stability, but has also shaped my values, deepened my empathy, and fostered an incredible love for growth and friendships. Now, I am dedicated to advancing the field by establishing high-risk ultrasound as a profession and specialty, and developing structural levels of ultrasound training. Ultrasound has given me more than I ever imagined, and I know it can do the same for others. My mission is to elevate this profession, ensuring the next generation of sonographers is equipped to provide the highest level of care. Please help me welcome Debbie. Welcome to our podcast. Today, we're going to talk about habits. I know that I had a life and health coach on, Patty Tucker, who talked about habits and the changes that happen in our brain and our body when we try to develop different habits. And today I want to just share with you a review of a book that I have read maybe 2 times, I think. And I kind of refer back to it a couple times when I'm working with other people. But I think of ultrasound technologists as the king and queens of habits. We know how to do habits when it comes to our work. Anytime I train someone, I tell them these are the things that I've gotten in the habit of doing for very specific and certain reasons, right? I'm asking questions. I'm asking their name. I'm asking their date of birth before we get into the room so that I'm making sure I have the right and correct patient. I have the room set up before I bring the patient in. I mean, there's certain habits and things that I do ahead of time in order to prepare for the patient. So I know their history and I know their background and I can better serve them, right? So I think we all do that. I think that's part of being a good sonographer. And so when I read this book, I think of ultrasound techs a lot. because we are just so good at it. So I just kind of wanted to go over a brief amount of it just so you understand it a little bit, but so that when new things come our way, I think we can understand it enough to know why new things are a little harder for us to make the change. Because I think our habits give us safety, right? I know when I get up in the morning, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I jump in the shower, right? That's my go-to habits, right? I get up. Oops, sorry, I forgot to tell you. I make my bed, I go to the bathroom, I brush my teeth, I jump in the shower, right? So these are things I do every day, and they're just second nature to me now. That's who I am. It becomes my identity, right? So in ultrasound, when we have habits, it becomes who we are. So anytime I'm helping someone or mentoring someone in ultrasound, when I see them working with someone else, that person shares with them their habits, right? And it's important that I tell them that it doesn't mean that what she's doing is wrong. It's just her way of doing it, right? So there's 10 different ways you can do our work. We prefer to do it the way that we do it so we don't forget anything, right? So it's important to emphasize that no one's wrong in the way they do it. It's just different. So I want you to keep that in mind, because I don't want there to be judgment, right? Like she does it wrong or she doesn't do it this way. So blah, 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 blah. We all learn from our mistakes, right? One way or the other. And she might learn a different way than I did. And so I do it a different way than she does or he does, right? So it's, again, not here to point fingers at anyone, but to say, these are different habits that I've learned. This person has another set of different habits. So choose what works for you. But there's several different ways to do it. So the first lesson in this, there's three big lessons in this book. The first one talks about small habits making a big difference. Recently, I've been doing a little bit of research and studying, and I have learned that in aviation, flying airplanes, there's a 1 in 60 rule. And the 1 in 60 is a math problem that if the plane is off by 1 degree, it can have impacts of about 10 miles per 600 per 600 miles. So it comes down to about a 10-mile change in course per 600 miles traveled. And I thought, wow, that's interesting. So from Chicago to St. Louis, and if you're off by 10 miles, you can end up in Chesterfield, Missouri, instead of St. Louis, Missouri, right? So that can be quite a bit of a difference if you're taking a long journey, right? So small changes. Another saying that I really love that I use a lot with people is small hinges swing big doors, right? So improving yourself by 1% doesn't feel particularly meaningful. But over the course of time, it's very meaningful and it's very significant in your practice. I listen to other podcasts, and one of the podcasts that I enjoy listening to is Ed Milet, and he's very fit, typically, but he's had some health issues. And he said he had to go back to the basics of I'm drinking water before I get out of bed. I'm doing a 1 minute plank. And I mean, this guy is chiseled, right? But he had to go back to the basics and just do small things that make a big difference, right? So the 1% task, right? Drinking the water, doing a 1 minute plank, doing, small things that still are going to move the needle for him, right? But very basic compared to what he was used to doing. So I think in our profession, maybe it's just, excuse me, maybe it's just pushing the harmonic button and learning what kind of changes that makes in our image, right? Getting used to seeing that change and where we can use it and where we can't use it. Being familiar with that. Maybe it's just using and familiarizing yourself with one new button on that machine, right? How can I adjust my dynamic range to really bring out what I'm looking for? Does this help? Does it not help? I'm going to practice trying that on every patient this week, right? It's a 1% change. It's a small, small thing that might make a big difference in your imaging, right? But it's small. It doesn't seem significant, but over the course of time, you get really comfortable with that button and that adjustment that you'll be able to fine tune it and know exactly when you want to use it and when it might not be good to use and different timings to do it. So it's the small habits that make a big shift. Lesson number 2 was forget about setting goals and focus on your systems instead. Now, I have to tell you, I'm a pretty goal-oriented person. And so when he said, and by the way, I'm sorry, this Atomic Habits book was written by James Clear. And so I want to make sure I give credit to where credit is due here. So I'm just referencing his book here. And so the second lesson was forget about setting goals, focus on your systems instead. I had a little trouble with that because I'm a very goal-oriented person, right? But I'm also a systems person. So when he said focus on the systems instead, I thought that makes a lot of sense, right? I think if you don't have a good system, you can't reach your goals. So in this process, I thought, a lot of us have good systems, right? We come in, we get our patient, we review their history, we get our room set up, we bring our patient back, we review it with the patient, we review their information and their history, and we systematically go through our exam to get the images that we are required to get and are in need of, right? So we are very systematic in how we do things. And I do think that when that system breaks down, that's where small misunderstandings, or I forgot this picture because the baby wasn't in the right position, or I forgot this because I saw this atrial fib going on, right? Or I got sidetracked because I had to take these extra measurements, right? And so I got out of my system of doing things. So anytime, you'll probably never see too many ultrasound techs who like bounce all over to get images. They're very systematic in how they take their images, right? So I think systems are vital to our habits. And I think it is important in order to reach our goals. I do think goals are still important. And I don't think he's saying that goals aren't important, but I think we need to look at our systems. When we have a breakdown of some kind or when we forget something, we need to look at the system, right? What's my process in going through that, and how can I fix that? Lesson number 3 was to build identity-based habits. So the key to building lasting habits is by focusing on creating a new identity. And so this was an interesting topic. I was talking to another friend earlier, I think a couple weeks ago. This topic kind of came up. And to change your behavior for good, you need to start believing new things about yourself. You need to build identity-based habits. So my friend and I kind of had a bit of a discussion because she felt inauthentic to believe something about herself she didn't feel was true. And I felt like I've got to stretch myself. I've got to believe something new. I got to believe that I can do research studies. I've got to believe that I can write an article. I've got to believe that this is a possibility for me to do a podcast. I have to believe that. And then I just slowly march forward, right? So now, after a few months, 6 months or so of doing a podcast, I can say, oh, I'm a podcaster now, right? Because I started it slowly and now it's part of my identity, right? So I took those 1% changes and slowly added them up. I've built a system in order to record them and get them to the people who helped me to create that. And so with those systems, now I've created a new identity, right? So maybe you're a student just coming out of school and you're like, oh gosh, okay, I've passed my boards. Great, but now what, right? And so the more systematic, the more small changes that you can make it a system, then it changes your identity. You have much more confidence, right? You're a new person. Oh, instead of a student now, oh, I've been doing this for about a year. Now I have a little bit more experience under my belt. Now I feel more confident. Now I feel like I can contribute to others who are coming up in the ranks to become an ultrasound tech. So I think that, in a nutshell, is a great way in which we explore ourselves, explore our career, and this is applicable to anyone at any level. If you're first coming into ultrasound, if you have been in for a little while and looking for a new challenge, just a 1% little change. What's a little pebble of inspiration or curiosity that you could follow and see where it leads you? Right? Maybe do a poster for STMS, maybe write an article, helping a radiologist or one of the doctors that you work for with some of their research. They're required to have research and to write articles, many of them. So it would be awesome for you to be able to, assist them in that, learning that process and moving forward with that. Also in this book, he talks about the habit loop. So I just kind of want to touch base a little bit on this habit loop. To create a good habit, first you need to make it obvious. You need a cue, right? Like, um, hmm. What can we use as a cue? Obvious. I need to introduce myself to the patient. I need to get their identifiers, their 2 identifiers, before I bring them back to the room. I have the room ready. And then I start reviewing their history as I'm starting to scan, right? The cue is I get a patient. Then I have a system that I follow. The second law is the craving. Make it attractive. Like, make it something that you want to do. Like, how can I go to the next level in my career? How can I build myself up? How can I create a better relationship with one of the physicians? How can I get my name on a piece of study that we've done, right? How can I learn something new? How can I learn to mentor others in ultrasound, right? Pick something that you're curious about, right? The third law, he said, was response. And so to make it easy, right? So that's why I say get curious about things around you. There's so many things around you. There's so many people who walk through the door that have so much to offer you as much as you have to offer them. So get curious about their disease or their disease process. How could ultrasound become better? Right? There's a lot of things that you can do to just kind of like take the next step. And what I think the easiest way to make it easy is to be curious about it, enjoy it, want to do more research about it. And the fourth law of creating a good habit is make it satisfying. What's the reward, right? Like there's always got to be this give and take of a reward. So maybe you work really hard on writing a article for SAMS Journal. And when it's complete and done and published, then maybe you take yourself for a little weekend trip to a place that you've wanted to go. Or maybe you try a new restaurant that you've always wanted to try. Or think of things that would be good payoffs for you, right? Things that would kind of encourage you to say, hey, good job, right? Things to work toward. And the way you break a habit, he also touched on that. And basically, it's a reversal of how to make a good habit, right? So he talks about the inversion. James Clear talks about the inversion of the first law of the acute, right? So if I want to lose weight, I need to hide the potato chips or don't buy them. Just don't have them around, right? Make it invisible. So forget that it happened, right? Second law is the craving. Make it unattractive. Well, I don't want to do that again. I don't want people mad at me. I don't want someone yelling at me because I forgot to do this. So I need to make sure that I don't keep doing that habit again. The third law of inversion is the response. Make it difficult. Like make it hard to continue working with the patient until you have all the history, right? Make it hard to not complete your work, right? From start to finish, billing, getting the report done correctly, making sure that report is pristine before you hit finished or preliminary or sent it to your doctor. And the fourth inversion is the reward. Make it unsatisfying. Like I'm not going to lunch until I get this done and I get it done right. Right? So think about how you want to be perceived and present yourself, right? That you want to take care of things right away so that you don't have unfinished business to have to take care of later. Things like that. So make a almost a reversal, like give yourself a little punishment. Like, I don't get a cup of coffee if I don't get blah, blah, blah done right. I don't, you know, get to eat out if I don't exercise 4 days a week, right? Those kind of things, right? Create yourself maybe a little cheat sheet of how to become better at a certain thing. Look at all your different options, talk with other people. How can I make this better? How can I get better in this area? And then play a little game with yourself. I like to play games. And so writing it down, making a system, and making it into a game, I think for myself is a great way to create a new habit or to break a bad habit, right? So I hope in my brief review of this book, Atomic Habits, by James Clear, I hope in this review that you can kind of use some introspection and look into your own profession and your own habits and your own systems and say, where can they be tweaked? Where can I get 1% better? Where can I how can I stay focused 1% more, right? How can I go to the next level by 1%, right? So I hope this has helped. I think there's not a lot of room for improvement for us as ultrasound techs because we're already so good at this topic. But I think it's always something to go back to and it can be used in many different areas of our life, right? Our own personal lives or our professional lives. We can always take that 1% increase to get better, right? And I think make it a goal to go to SCMS. Maybe that's your reward. I'm going to get published. I'm going to create a poster for SCMS. I'm going to do something. And then I'm going to be able to go and meet with other professionals who do the same thing, that have better and different ideas. And how can I take the next step to move myself up professionally? Let me know your thoughts on this, and I hope this has been helpful. Thank you for tuning in to It's All About the Frequency podcast. I hope you enjoyed today's episode. Share it with a friend, and remember to keep your frequency high.